Hey Dude,
The 90s called.
with Christine Taylor and David Lascher. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hey Dude, The 90s Called. I am one of your co-hosts, first name basis at this point. I'm Christine. And who are you?
I'm David. I will not say my last name because it will get me in big trouble. We're on a first name basis.
You think I'm going to yell at you? It is so good to see you, David.
You as well. Always.
That was such a great episode with Elizabeth last week, and I was reading some of the comments, and I couldn't have agreed on our Instagram account. And I mean, I feel like the response we're getting is really the way we felt after the episode of just how real she is, what a beautiful soul she is. The honesty, like the stories about showgirls that we didn't even know about. And, you know, we lived through that time, and I remember all of the fallout, but not those details where she really took the hit and the blame, which the more I thought about that, the angrier I got.
Yeah, me too. And that's why
a 21-year-old woman, a young girl, being treated that way. Can you believe it?
Yeah, and especially because they didn't stand there with her. You know, they sent her out as the face of the movie, and everyone else backed off into the background and let her take the fall for it. But look, she worked her way back, and she's done amazing work. But she wears her heart on her sleeve. You know, she wouldn't do an interview if she wasn't going to be open and honest, which is why she's a very private person, and why we were so lucky to get her. And you know, she texted me and our producers that she was so happy with the interview. And I think it's a great one. I hope everyone listens to Elizabeth Berkley from this past week.
Yeah, we had a really nice text chat afterwards.
Oh, good.
Making plans, you know, all kinds of plans. They're going to be in New York. We're figuring it all out. So that was great. The connections have been so terrific.
And Ben will love Greg. I mean, he's really, seriously, one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, he's handsome, like literally one of the most handsome guys you've ever seen, but he's incredibly like artistic.
Unassuming, right?
Yeah, he's so down to earth, but like passionate and artistic. And every time I'm with him, we have amazing conversations. But yeah, you guys should all get together for sure.
Definitely. And the other thing I was reading in our comments, which I thought was worth you and I discussing a little bit, was someone wrote, "More Hey Dude, please." So
oh, wow.
I wonder what that looks like. Like more Hey Dude guests, more of you and I chatting about Hey Dude a little bit, when you and I like a memory or something. But you know, we obviously have other guests to bring on. You know, we immediately had thought of Graham for our reunion episode. He wasn't available, but he would be terrific to talk to. Certainly one of the quintessential action 90s writers of the time who has continued to work. We always talk about him, but I would love to hear his take on us.
Right. If we could get Graham Yost and David Brisbane, who played Mr. Ernst, I think that's an episode. And
they were actually really, they became, I think, best friends, but they became best friends.
Yeah. And they were the adults in the room the whole time we were shooting, right? We talk about like how hard we worked and that we felt like we had to make something great. If it wasn't for them, we could have just gone off the rails.
It's so true. It is so true.
I mean, they were working so hard as professionals. Like we were kids. We were like, what the hell? Why do you care so much?
Exactly.
It's a cable show.
Exactly. I know. Well, yes, I know. I was thinking back when Lisa, our writer, reminded us of how hard we were working. And it was because we had people like that keeping us on track and, you know, keeping us in line. Right.
Right. It would have been insulting to them had we not, you know, given 100% for whatever, 12 hours a day. So they taught us a lot. Yeah, that would be a great episode.
What always makes me laugh, though, too, is that, you know, you said they were the adults in the room. Now, I still think of our little buddy Josh Tigel as a little one, and he's a grown man.
Oh yeah, we should have
a private investigator.
Oh, you know what we should do? We should have Josh try and find Joe Torres.
We've been saying this since the reunion.
Well,
We've been saying this since 2014. How have we not gotten it together? Like that was our brilliant idea then. I think we were on the panel talking about it, and one of us said it, and we were like, "That's a great idea."
I mean, that would be the Hey Dude 90s called documentary movie. Ooh. Searching for Joe Torres.
Yes. Searching for Joe Torres. Oh, I really like that. Because there's a lot of speculation online of where Joe is. I mean, I've heard stories over the years, you know, these obviously our fans have tried to find him. And, you know, maybe he is just like, that was a period of my life that.
No. In 2023, you should be able to find anybody on this planet in some way, whether it's LinkedIn or Google or social media. I mean, how is he not findable?
Maybe he doesn't want to be found.
That would be
very Joe.
In character of Joe.
Be very Joe.
Yeah.
Right? He was so mysterious, even at 17, 18 years old.
But so smart. He was so smart.
And he was a real cinephile. Like he
and a music lover, right? All the heavy metal 90s stuff. I mean,
and a reader. I mean, he was much more sophisticated than the local Tucsonian.
What do you mean? He was more sophisticated than us.
Oh, you're so right. He did. He taught me. I think he showed me the movie A Clockwork Orange.
Oh my God!
I had not seen.
He showed me that as well. Yep, I remember.
We must
have
all watched that together. So we will think about a good we'll get a good Hey Dude episode sort of back in the works.
Where are you reading comments? I got to start reading comments
on the Instagram account.
Oh my gosh, you scroll through the comments?
Yes, I told you. That's why I have my own account, but it's like a personal.
Oh, you're like a spy.
I guess, but I have a little, my own little families and friend.
No,
following.
I get it.
But I really, that's why I've talked about it, is I really do want to be able to engage with our fans in that way. And that's why I've been reading, because there have been so many great suggestions. Guests we've had on, guests we're talking about. But yeah, read the comments for sure. And that doesn't mean fans to start writing mean things to us.
No, I mean, I
keep
tell
them nice.
Chelsea will read me comments that are, very mean. And I'll say, do not ever read the comments.
Yeah.
Because you don't, she's a kid and she might not want to see something someone has to say. But our fans, I think, are very supportive. And I got to start reading the comments. But our guest this week, I mean, should we say? I'm so psyched.
Well, yes. If you clicked on today, you know who this guest is, right?
None other than Full House alumni, Jodie Sweetin.
I mean, when you think of the sort of quintessential 90s, the babies, the 90s kids who grew up as babies, essentially, as children, little toddlers and infants. You get like the Olsen twins, Joey Lawrence, who we've also had on the show,
right,
and Jodie. I mean, I really think of Jodie. I watched her grow up on television before our eyes.
I would have to say Full House is, if I had to pick one show from the 90s to represent that decade, it would be Full House. I mean,
absolutely.
At the time, I didn't realize that it was yards ahead of anything else as far as longevity and what people would still love 10, 20 years from now.
Yep.
But it is. I mean, they did a reboot that was a wild success on Netflix and people love it.
And what's even crazier is, my son weekly, has been saying, who's your guest this week? Who's your guest this week? By the way, he's not a big podcast listener. He's, we've talked about it, a junior in high school. He's very busy. He, in his free time, he studies all things NBA and New York Knicks. And that's his free time.
My son too.
But yes, he, as soon as I said Jodie's name, he went, From Whole House? So this is, again, a different generation. Obviously, right. Fuller House has been on, and it's something that was sort of, the perfect thing for our kids in their age range when that came back. But they know the original show.
Yep. Chelsea said the same thing. She asked me who I was interviewing, and I showed her the picture, and she's like, "Oh my God, tell her I love Full House." And Chelsea actually went to a taping of Fuller House. Her friends from camp were in LA from the East Coast, and she was like, "Can you please, please, please?" So I texted Bob Saget, who I hadn't talked to in like a number of years, and he set them up with tickets and backstage. Like, I mean, he was. We'll talk to her about it. But Bob Saget was seriously one of the sweetest, kindest, like most generous people I've ever worked with.
You're absolutely right. I never worked with him, but knew him a little bit. And he was all of those things, and also one of the most hilarious, irreverent, right. not the character he played on Full House.
No, total opposite. Yeah.
And just, just you fall in love. He was the guy you fell in love with.
He was.
So anyway, yeah. Anyway, we have Jodie.
All right.
Let's welcome her in.
Hi, Jodie.
Hey, how are you?
You've got the Fuller House poster.
I do.
Prominently placed.
I do. I have the Fuller House, which is funny because I'm actually in the process in like a month. I'm cleaning out my office. I'm about to redo everything in here. It has become just an ADHD den of nightmare proportions. So there's like a lot of half-finished projects. There's like just stuff that has been shoved into corners, but I do have my Full House wall and my Fuller House wall. I have a little bit of both.
Everybody's office is like that. I feel. Don't feel bad. We're with you.
Oh yeah. I try to make the background look at least semi-presentable.
Yeah, the books.
It looks very presentable.
I'm sure you've read all of those books.
I read a fair amount of them, but those ones that are like up there, like they just look really pretty, but they're like classics. Some of them I've read.
That looks like a room I'd want to hang in, though, for sure.
I kind of don't leave this room. It's like I have my nice little pool out here, a nice little view. I come out here. The kids know, like when mom's out here, she's, working. So I'm like,
it's your fortress of solitude.
Exactly. I'm like, I am busy. It's the AirPods.
Bobby's working.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you since I did your show, The Darlings, Hollywood Darlings.
Yeah. Since you did Hollywood Darlings. Oh my God, that's right. It was the Crazy Witch episode, wasn't it?
I did a few days with you and Christine, and I just got to tell you, it was so fun. It was like a really fun set.
I loved that show. And, whenever I'm out, people really are like, oh, I wish you guys would do another season. And I'm like, I wish we could have too. I think it was a really fun, great, funny show that just had it gotten maybe a little more press or like been a little easier to find and not on Pop. I think we probably could have gotten a couple more seasons out of it. And it was so fun to just jump off the ledge of improv.
It was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm for like a younger generation. Christine, everyone played themselves. So I played myself. Jodie played herself.
Like heightened versions of ourselves, right? So like I'm kind of a sarcastic, whatever. But it was like, that was just really the part I played. And Christine was kind of Christine Lakin from Step by Step was like the kind of hippy dippy one and always in the arts and, always auditioning for something ridiculous. And then Bev was like type A, super organized. And so the dynamic, we've all been friends forever. The dynamic was really funny, but it was all improv. We'd have a storyline and then it was like, okay, just here's some funny things. Go for it.
Wait, Christine was from which show?
Christine Lakin was on Step by Step.
Step by Step. And Beverly was on Seventh Heaven.
On Seventh Heaven.
Yes. Yeah. It was a great.
What year was that?
It was, I want to say like either the first and second or the second and third seasons of Fuller House. So it was like 2018, like around in 2016 to 2018, somewhere in there was when we were shooting it.
Yeah.
It was right when Schitt's Creek came on Pop TV, because it was, I think we either led into Schitt's Creek or vice versa. And then they started really promoting that show. And I think we kind of, you know, I mean, we weren't Schitt's Creek. I will take that.
But you were there with them. It was a very fun set. You guys were having so much fun. It was so good to reconnect with you, because I had done, let's go, we'll go back, but I had done an episode of Full House as one of like my first things ever. And I just.
What?
Yeah.
What? How did I not know this?
Yeah. After Hey Dude, I came to LA. I did a bunch of like, you know, I did Roseanne.
Episodic.
I actually did Step by Step. I did Full House. And I played a guy. It was an episode called Take My Sister, Please, where a DJ wanted to have her own room. And
it was. And I think I was being the annoying pesky.
Right. I played a guy named Rick who was trying to ask DJ out while we were doing homework. And you come in, and I got to say, you were the cutest kid. But like you had such comic chops. I've never seen a child that age with that sort of like built-in comedic talent. I mean, you come in and go, hey, Ricky Tikki Tavi, Ricky, you're the Rickmeister. And you start disrupting us so badly, and that like launches into the episode. But like, how did you start acting, and how did you get to that place in such a young age?
You know, that's a really huge compliment, and I thank you so much for that. And it's Bob and Dave and John have always said that. And Bob and Dave, you know, growing up with two stand-up comedians and having them be like, at 5 years old, you have one of the, I mean, it's a memory that sticks with me forever. That was a compliment that Bob gave me. It was like, you at 5 years old had better comic timing than many of the stand-ups I've worked with, like professionally, like you just
who worked years and years on it.
And I don't know, like I was just always that kid. I was like, my first birthday, my grandma's blowing out the trick candles, and I think it's hilarious every time. Like I would stop and then crack up when they would, you know. But I loved performing. I was like about round 3, I started reading. I skipped grading school. I needed a lot of stimulation. I needed a lot going on. And I started doing like print work and stuff and dance competitions and whatever at like 3.5. And, you know, I was the kid that would I was in the second row of my first dance recital, and whoever was in front of me, I was like, no. So I like kind of wedged my way up to the front, you know, and my mom was like, maybe we should let her perform. And I started doing commercials. I did a Sizzler commercial, was one of my first commercials. And then I did, Oscar Mayer was my first commercial. Sizzler I did later, or vice versa. But I wound up getting cast on Full House from doing an episode of Valerie, which was Valerie Harper's show. And I was the first person cast on the show. And it just I just wound up in the right place at the right time.
You were the first cast member of Full House?
I was the first cast member. I never auditioned. I just did an episode of Valerie, and it was the same producers that had Full House in development at the time.
Was Valerie the precursor to the Hogan family?
The Hogan family, yes.
That was the Jason Bateman.
Was what it became after they kicked Valerie off of her own show.
Right.
Oh, but Bateman was on there.
Yes.
Bateman was on there. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a great picture somewhere of me sitting on his lap with the other two boys from the show. I played the next door neighbor, Pamela Poole, or I played her niece, Pamela Poole, and they saw a clip of me from that, and Jeff Franklin, that created the show, was like, that's Stephanie. That's who I want. And then the rest of the cast was cast after that, and it's always crazy to me. I just think like how really lucky I was to wind up just being me and doing the right thing in the right place at the right time, you know, and the rest of it has just been a weird, wild ride.
I'm not surprised though. Like I was just talking about, like when you see a child at that age that knows the timing and where the joke is, and it's undeniable.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm moving into stand-up. I'm doing a 5-minute set with my friend Mike Binder at the Ice House this weekend. And
he's
been
incredible.
Hosting a show. Yeah, I've been hosting a show at the Comedy Store called Family Dinner. So I'm moving actually a little bit more to stand-up, writing a set, and like kind of just, I don't know, moving into something that I've like never really done before, and it's really fun, and I'm enjoying it. So
is it a little bit terrifying too? Or does it feel not? Because to me, nothing sounds scarier.
So so I've done this show, Family Dinner, a couple times at the Comedy Store now, and it's me and a panel of other comedians, and we talk growing up and family and all kinds of ridiculous shit. And my friend Jeremiah, who's another comedian, said, I have this show. I know you're wanting to get into stand-up a little bit. It's called Stand Up on the Spot, if you want to do it. I was like, sure. Very first time, like solo stand-up. And it's basically you go up on stage and people yell out random things and you like make stand-up, like you just go.
Oh, it's like Second City type sketch.
Like Second City. Yeah. Except it's stand-up and not sketch.
Right.
It's just you up there kind of and sometimes there's funny things and sometimes you're like, next, yell something out. It's terrible. But that was like my first experience, and I did like 10, 12 minutes. It was really fun to just go up there.
10, 12 minutes?
I was like, well, I figure at this point, like if I can go up there and just talk, then writing it down. I'm working with a friend of mine on writing some stuff for my set this weekend. So that's my next journey. How proud would
Bob Saget be? What a great mentor, right?
He was, I really do. I give him so much credit in, like you said, I loved comedy. I loved funny stuff. I got it. But growing up around Bob and Dave, who were so warm and kind and friendly and family, and that even as a kid would laugh at my silly jokes or would, you know what I mean? Like it was always so encouraged.
Yeah.
And I learned that, zippy back and forth, like just how to bounce, between comedians. And I'm really grateful for it. I actually have a little painting of Bob up here that a friend of mine did. And so he's always up here. And, his pictures at the Comedy Store. So every time I do my show, I walk by and give him a kiss on the picture.
Right.
Oh, so, your guardian angel.
Yeah. And his presence in your life is a part of you and who you are today. And it makes total sense that you're doing stand-up.
Yeah.
So listen, Christine and I were saying, if we could pick one show from the 90s to represent the decade, and we probably didn't know it at the time, but it has to be Full House. I mean, the longevity and the love for that show is so profound. It's so intense.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think that, a show that, my gosh, it premiered in 87. So, a show that's been around for like 35 years, that was, of its time too. It's not like it's, exactly groundbreaking comedy or anything, it's nothing like that, but it is such a well-loved and such a staple of so many people's growing up and childhoods. And there's generations that, grew up watching it that now have kids that are watching it. And it's a huge honor really that Full House has been sort of that big of a piece of American 90s pop culture.
It's true. And it's really, and what you hit the nail on the head of it really just became about how much we loved the characters. It was safe. There was comfort. And, we talk about this a lot as we talk to our 90s guests of that, that appointment TV where it was once a week, everyone gathered around and you got to go on this little adventure with them. Right.
Yeah. And yes. that was it. Right. We don't do that anymore. It's not unless it's, maybe an HBO weekly Sunday show, but like, we just don't have that appointment television. We don't watch it necessarily all together because there's, 7 televisions in someone's house or whatever. Like, it's just, we watch TV differently. So it's so cool to think that we were kind of that last like kid generation of growing up with, having that, like you had to watch it, and it, you know, there was no DVR. It was, you saw it on Friday night on TGI, and that was it.
Right.
Well, and what you just said too about it, that was something I haven't thought about, David, too, is, you know, we all have kids, and back in the day, not everyone had TVs in all of the rooms the way we do now. Because I swear to God, I will be in the same house as my son and send a text saying, oh, you got to come down and watch the end of this game. He's like, oh, I got it on my TV. And then he'll be texting me about the game from his room.
For sure. But I constantly, like, dinner's ready.
What are we doing? Yes.
Like, right. And that's what it is now, right? But we all used to sit around and watch one television, maybe two if we were lucky. And it was such a show that resonated with kids and parents. And so many shows didn't really give the kids as much storyline as the adults. It was like an adult show that had kids kind of as a side dish, or it was a kid show where the parents were kind of irrelevant and not really. But this was really a show about the whole family. Everyone had something going on in their lives that was different and that, you know, needed them to come together.
Right. They really did focus on the kids. Like, what are the kids' problems? What are their issues?
Right. It was the kids' problems, and it was showing the adults and the kids helping each other. And so, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, so many Nickelodeon shows and things like that, like the parents are just kind of, you know, like occasionally they come in and like
non-existent
and then they're and you're like, oh, that's it. But Full House it was the whole family. It was all of us. And I think I always say that because the love on set and between us in real life was so genuine, I think that is also what made the show so appealing, was that it just came across. It was natural. It was, you know, it felt warm, and like you were really watching this family love each other and live through stuff together, because we were.
It was an amazing ensemble of talent too. I mean, even from Mary-Kate and Ashley, who were I don't know how old they were when they started. They were 9
months old when they started the show.
What?
Diapers?
They're babies. Yeah.
9 months.
Yeah. They were
Jodie,
9 months
how
old.
old were you? How old were you
when I started the show? I had just turned 5.
Oh, okay, so you were like an offer only at 5.
No, oh God, no.
She was the headliner.
I am so kidding.
I mean, yeah, it was. I like I said, I very quickly found my footing in this business, and to this day, it's what I absolutely love to do in all of its weird various forms, whether it's comedy or theater or singing or, you know, whatever. I love performing. I love what I do. I've done it in some capacity on and off my entire life. But yeah, at 5 years old, that was what I knew, you know? So 5 to 13 was how old I was when the show was on. It was all of my elementary and middle school years. It was like legit my formative years.
Right. Growing up on set.
I don't have a school experience before that. I don't know what it was like to just go to school as a kid that wasn't on a TV show and going kind of in and out and back and forth. Yeah, it just all seemed weirdly normal.
When you look back on those years, are you glad you spent them the way you did? And do you look back fondly on them?
So fondly, like to the point where people are like, really? I like I said, I loved what I did. Yeah. I loved performing. Later in life, and I've been talking about this more now, I got diagnosed with ADHD, and I now look back on how my brain operated as a kid, which I needed a lot of external stimuli. I needed a routine, but something different within that routine every day. I needed
weekly
individual
sitcom
attention. I love to perform and be funny. I like all of those little things that a kid in a classroom would probably like kind of struggle with. Mm-hmm. It was like this perfect, I look at it now, I'm like, oh my God, it was kind of the perfect hybrid environment for what I needed, which was go to school, have some normal friends, do all that, but then have this other part of my life that kept me engaged and going and interested and traveling and learning new things.
creatively fulfilled too. Expressing yourself in that way
without being told, sit down. You're going to the principal's office. You're being too funny. Right.
Right. And so I look at it now and it wasn't, I just wondered like, wow, I just thrived in it. I loved it. It never felt like a chore or, sure. Do you have to work sick sometimes as a kid? Is there a certain personality type of like, you just show up and do it? Yeah. But I loved it. And a huge part of that was because I grew up and I was surrounded by a cast and a crew of people on Full House who genuinely loved us kids, were protective of us kids, did not, we took care of each other. And as young people growing up in this business, that's not always the case. But all of the parents on the set, Candace's, mine, Andrea's, Ashley, were involved. The families of Bob and Dave and John and Laura, they were involved. Like, it was just such a communal, wonderful experience that gave me this big, huge family. I truly can't imagine growing up any other way, because I think my life would have been very, very different. I mean, obviously, but it was, but I think all of those things were exactly what I needed to thrive and be creative and sort of find my way in the world.
That's amazing. I mean, what a unique setting to thrive in at that age.
Yeah.
But you felt protected. You felt safe there. You didn't feel
absolutely, yeah,
pressure to
incredible. No.
Because we've talked to like Joey Lawrence was on here, and we've talked to other people that started at a very young age, and they said there was a lot of pressure to perform, like the table read to the tape night. You were treated as some sets. The kid was treated as an adult. Like we
were treated as adults. It was you go out and you do your job. Like, you got a fever too bad, you go do your thing. But for whatever reason, that was. I naturally sort of fell into that rhythm. I never was like, oh, like, I loved it.
You didn't feel the pressure to get the laugh and all that stuff. Like, oh, the writer's going to cut my lines. None of that.
It sounds like that came so naturally to you
right.
anyway.
I mean, yeah, you always got the laugh.
Yes.
Maybe that's it. Maybe, and that's, I've jokingly said before, I'm like, comedy is something like sometimes when I'm performing or hosting or, doing talk shows or whatever, I'm like, is this my job? Like, this is so fun and like so easy. I just am being me. But like, it's just kind of naturally who I am. Is I love to perform. And my parents, suffered through many a one-man show over the years. Even before I was on TV or doing anything, I would run into the room with a harmonica and interrupt everyone and be like, I'm performing now. That was just who I was. So there was never pressure to do it. And also, my parents were very normal. My parents were, my dad had a job the whole time. He was a superintendent at a gypsum plant in Long Beach Harbor, had a very blue collar job. My mom was on set with me all the time. My parents always it always reminded me that, like, this is fun. This won't be forever. This business is enjoy it right now and do all the things. If you don't love it, don't do it.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow. And I always knew that, like, and that kind of came to play in like high school when it's like, I'm done with the show. Like, I don't know what I want. I want to perform, but I don't know if I want to audition as much. I just wanted to be with my friends. My mom was like, great. We'll just take a step back a little bit. Like, I don't want to drive you up and down the freeways if I don't have to. And I want to give you the opportunity to, like, go to, I did a performing arts high school. So I wanted to be in musical theater and do all that and be with high school kids. And I did that. And it was great, but I never have felt that my parents wanted this for me more than I did. At all. And they never wanted it for themselves. They were like, no. Like, my mom did one guest appearance on Full House with the other two moms when it was like our second season. And she was like, I don't know how you do that. She said, the door opened, the lights hit my face. She said, I was absolutely frozen. And I was like, really? that's so weird. Like, yeah, it's just fun.
It's so nice though to get that respect from your mom and the freedom to know that you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Like we're here because you want to do this.
Because I want to. Yeah. Yeah. And my education was always important. You know, I went to college. I got my degree in elementary education. I was going to be a teacher.
Are you serious?
Chapman University, right? That's an amazing school.
Was there ever a version where you thought you wanted to study and learn more, because you know what I mean, learn and go into a BFA program or anything along those lines?
I was like, I'm gonna Chapman has a great film school. I'm gonna go. I applied to like USC and Loyola and Chapman, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Chapman. It was in Orange County, near where I lived, you know, all this stuff. And I was like, I'm gonna go to film classes. And, you know, to be quite honest, at that time in my life, I was 17, 18. I was soon to get sober for the first time at 18. I was not in a great place in my life. So I would go, you know, I didn't go to a lot of classes. To be very honest, that first semester of college, I was a disaster. And I remember going to some of my film classes and thinking, I can't do this. I grew up in this business, but like, these people want it. These people, they don't have any experience. Like, this is just, I've already done, you know, maybe I'm not meant to be here. And I had a huge amount of self-doubt. And I was like, maybe I'm not meant to do this. And I moved into liberal studies and elementary education and history minor and loved all that. But I got an opportunity. I directed an episode of Fuller House, the third from the last episode. And I'm now going to be directing a movie this summer. And I'm moving more into that and directing and writing. And that's kind of where my next path is going, is into directing and more production stuff. But I got to do it, and I got to have this moment where, as an adult, having gone through all of the mire of all of the other stuff, I got to come back with many of the same people to the same stage, to that same place that I left when I was 13, and got to come back and be like, yeah, you can do it. Actually, you do know what you're doing. Right. Actually, all of that stuff that you've done through your life actually is valuable. And I did it, and I was successful, and I loved it. And I was like, oh, wow. It was this really cool moment of getting to come back and really claim what I wanted for myself in a way that I don't think I was prepared to do at 17 or 18. And I'm glad I kind of went off in a different direction and then came back to it.
Right. So,
that sounds incredibly empowering, right?
That's amazing. You went on your own path. You left it all behind. And then, so what was that like when you get a call? Now you've gone to Chapman University, you're studying education, all this other stuff. You get a call, we want to do Fuller House. Were you just no?
That was 15 years later. So I went to college. I graduated college. I got married 1, 2, 3 times. And then, whatever.
That's a whole nother episode.
Is that part of the stand-up routine?
That's a 3-part other podcast. But, you know, I made a mess of things, as you do in your 20s. And then I kind of got back on track, and I got it together. And, with Fuller House, you know, we had talked about for years. I don't know. I feel like the fan base is still there. Maybe we could be. But there were at various times in the discussions of it where Warner Brothers still owned the property and they didn't want to let it go. They were making enough on, you know, whatever residuals and syndication. They were like, why would we want to? We're fine. And so it went 20 years. And I had moved on. I was now working in drug and alcohol treatment. I was a director of operations. I was doing a lot of staff managing and schedules and, you know, a very logistical, that's almost amazing. AD side.
Amazing work.
Like managerial skills.
Yeah, yes. Like stuff that I didn't know I could do that came in very handy when I came back to direct, right? But it was like I needed to learn those skills somewhere else. And
you were helping people having gone through it.
I thought I was going to be a therapist. And that's still something I'm like, when the acting thing doesn't work out or directing, I'll be a therapist. But I was involved from the beginning in the discussions with John and Jeff and Bob Boyette, and talking about bringing the show back. And me, Candace, Andrea, John, Jeff, and Bob Boyette, not Saget, but we would all go to all the pitch meetings. So we started off with ABC Family and ABC and a couple other places, I think AMC maybe. And anyway, a bunch of places. We went to Nickelodeon and had a pitch that was a disaster.
Wait, why?
I couldn't make it. I had like a big retreat that weekend for my day job. I was like, I am in charge of stuff. I can't leave. I was like, but at that point, I think we'd had like 4 pitch meetings, and it was kind of one of those like, I can't make this one. Like, it was sort of almost a little frustrating. And I didn't go. It was at a different address than where Nickelodeon used to be. So I think Candace and Andrea went to like somewhere on the other, like in Santa Monica, and it's in Burbank.
Oh,
John
no.
couldn't see that. Like the whole, it was just a shit show of a pitch, right? Where you're like, well, I'm glad that was great. But Brian Wright, who was one of the execs at Nickelodeon, wound up leaving there and going over to Netflix several months later. And he said to Netflix, you guys, there's a show going around that is being pitched and nobody's got it yet. And I just think it's what we're looking for like our family block, like our code, and that was how we wound up at Netflix again.
So perfect.
From having something that just kind of didn't work out to somebody going like, but I like the idea. And then finally getting to the place where, that's half of this business is just going and like shooting your shot wherever you can, trying to pitch ideas. And then 3 years later, something, clicks.
It seems like
it's so true.
It was such a perfect landing spot, because I remember Netflix at the time, they had House of Cards. They were known for these like amazing, expensive dramas, but I don't think they had a comedy at that point. And Fuller,
they didn't have a family comedy for sure, and no multicams. Definitely no multicam sitcoms unless they were acquisitions.
I feel like Fuller House really was beneficial to making Netflix what it is.
Or was no, but but yeah, they definitely like we really helped bring Netflix and their like family co-viewing. That was what they wanted, right? Was that family television that had gone away, that was separated into the kids watching what they watch in their rooms and the parents watching the dramas, and then they wanted everyone coming back together, and they knew this was the show to do it. And it really is, because we have incredible fans, though, who love this show.
Right. And then your fans' kids now were watching the reboot.
I mean, it's like generations will come through where it's like the grandmother who's like, oh, I raised my daughter who's now your age watching this show. And now her kids watch the show. And like, there's very, very few shows that do that and that do it successfully. And I would like to think that we did, and I'm really happy for that.
Did you guys shoot on the same stage at Warner Brothers that you did? No way.
We did.
So you literally came back.
That is increst. What a trip. That must have been such a time warp.
It was so weird. The first season, first 2 seasons of Fuller, we were like one stage over because the big stage wasn't available. And it was weird. It was like set up in 2 aisles. So like some of the sets the audience couldn't see because it was a much smaller stage than we were used to. But the 3rd season, we moved back into stage 24. And that was where we shot the last 2 years of Full House. And we were the first, I think, set that had moved in there where they had built like these, dressing room, but like sort of little apartments in the back that was like a 2-story building where all the dressing rooms and wardrobe and hair and makeup and all that stuff was. But they built it. We were the first cast in it. And then Friends took over our stage when we left. And
when you left the original.
When we left the original, then Friends came in. There were a bunch of other shows, but then we got to go back and we shot the last 3 seasons, 3, 4, and 5 on that original set. I was in. Candace had Bob's old dressing room. I had Dave's old dressing room. Andrea was in Lori's.
Wait, why didn't you guys?
Why didn't everybody claim their old dressing
your
rooms?
old room back?
Because the adults had much bigger dressing rooms when
there you go.
So we're the adults, so we got the bigger
there you go.
There it is. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I mean, to be back in that hallway and with those people in a place that, you know, when you're 13 years old, and for most of us in this business, we know once you say goodbye to a show or something, like, that's it, you're done. It was lovely. It was a wonderful memory. I'm so glad I got to do that, but you never get to go back. You don't get to go back to the same place with the same people and do it all over again. And we did. So
sometimes
it was really incredible,
a magical story.
Like
I mean, it
the
really
universe
is
trying to teach you something.
That first day, and it was, I mean, we all came at kind of different points throughout the building of the set before we had seen it. And they found the old plans and really made it as much like the original set as possible. And I remember after our first table read, like our big table read with Netflix and Warner Brothers and everything, we all walked over there because the set was almost done. And we all walked in, and it was just, it hit us. We were crying. We were all walking through like arm in arm, because it was like we said, it was like going back to your childhood home with your family and moving back in. It was incredible.
Wow.
I mean, how often do you get to do that too? Also, like, it sounds like you had things to reconcile personally, also to be able to go back as an adult and do it and just in such a healthy, productive way. And then you end up directing some of them. I mean,
with perspective, right? With life perspective, with a feeling of, I got through stuff and I am here and I've earned my place back here, right?
Yeah. And
that is really powerful.
I think too, for a lot of us that start out in this business as kids, it's a weird sort of thing, because as much as we have been in this business longer than so many of our adult peers were like, yeah, I've been in this business 37 years. They're like, oh, I started at 25, we still sort of have, I think child actors tend to have this feeling like, I haven't somehow earned it because I just started it's just what I do. It's just
that imposter syndrome,
right? That imposter syndrome, and being able to have gone away, to have learned some lessons, to have worked in different areas, to have gained other skills, and to have also been able to strip away a lot of stuff and then come back to it when you're in a place when you're like, oh, it's that perspective is so, it made it such an incredible experience as an adult, to come back with such gratitude and to be like, wow, man, like this is just all bonus. It is all bonus.
Right. And it's icing
on the cake.
10,000 therapy sessions, like you look back at your younger self and you don't feel bad for your younger self. You have this perspective like, this was the perfect way for me to grow up, and you find the positives in it. It's just amazing.
Exactly. I mean, it isn't easy to grow up as a working child actor.
Right.
There are a lot of things that you do give up, and there are a lot of pitfalls and a lot of places that you could be bitter with life or others or yourself. But I'm really grateful that wasn't my experience, and I'm so grateful that I look back on it now and go, oh, that was exactly what I needed, and now I get to do it in a different way.
It's really amazing. Do you keep in touch with your castmates? I mean, are you guys still close?
We just did 90s Con together, actually. Me and Dave and Andrea and Candace were in Hartford, Connecticut, and we did a big 90s show convention.
And was it like you just pick up right where you left off? Like,
I mean, we don't not see each other we see each other all the time anyway. So it's not like years go by where we don't see each other. Like if it's a couple months, that's a long time usually. Right. We get together for dinners and we'll travel together.
Birthday parties and all those things. Yeah, all the life milestones. Yes.
It's just that kind of, we're just always together doing something.
That is so unique, because it feels like, I mean, it's very unique, especially because almost the way families who are real families, blood relatives, still can't find the time if they're living on different coasts or in different places. And
some of us have moved away and stuff, but we still make an effort. It is like family. We know that is those are our best friends. Those are people that have known us. I mean, John and Dave and, Bob, they were in their 20s when they started this show. Like, they were babies. I look at a 24-year-old like, you are a baby, nothing, and I'm like, that was
they were the men.
Right.
They were the men.
You're adults, right? And so we all, in so many ways, grew up together. Throughout all of it, we've all, and we've all loved each other like family. We've jokingly not jokingly, we've had family moments and that's it. Everybody in the dressing room, and we've had to hash stuff out. But that's what you do when you love each other. That's what happens. And
I forgot that they were so young, right? I mean, Bob Saget and John Stamos and Dave Coulier, they
were like,
when I came on the set, they seemed like these adults. I was very intimidated on that set. More so, yeah. I don't know, maybe because how popular the show was, but I had done a few other things, but on that set, I was like, whoa, these are like movie star adults all over the place. But I remember Bob being like really going out of his way to be so kind and welcoming. Everyone else would run back to their dressing rooms, and I get it. Like that's what you do when you're in season 5 of a show. And then, Bob and I had become friends, years and years later. And his passing away was so brutal and so upsetting. I can't imagine how you guys all felt. It was like out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was, I'll never forget that day. I was standing right here in the doorway to my office, and I had gotten off the Peloton, and I saw that Candace had called me 3 times.
Oh boy.
Oh.
And you know how it is when amongst friends, especially now, like if you call me 3 times in a row, like something is horribly wrong. You know what I mean? If you're not like, hey, call me when you can.
It's not a text. Yeah.
Not a text. And I was like, oh shit. And And I just remember I picked up the phone, and she was like, Bob's gone. And it was like, I just hit my knees. I was like, no, it just didn't make sense, because we had all just seen the night before him post this amazing show that he had. And he went, like, he was so on top of the world, and it was fine.
Right.
It was fine. And it was just, and then I called Lori, and I was the one that had to tell Lori. She was going out to lunch somewhere, and I called her, and she was like, hey, Jode. And I just was like, oh, Lori. And, it was like, we all just, we went to Bob's house. We were with Kelly, all of his other, Mike Binder and John Mayer and Jeff Ross. And, everybody, we all just showed up at the house, and I feel like that whole week we were just in a fog, and we were always together. And it was, it was like that thing that happens whenever someone that you love suddenly passes away. It was dragging out tons of old pictures and going through them and laughing and telling old stories, and
the whole world stopped.
Heartbreaking stories. Yeah. It was the whole world stopped. And yet, we all came together, and I know that Bob would have been so happy. The whole cast got together, Ashley, Mary Kate, and everybody. We hadn't all been together in the same room in probably 15 years. Mm-hmm. And that I knew, I was like, Bob would have made a terrible joke. Like, well, I'm dead, but at least you guys all got to see each other.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I always jokingly say, I'm like, I will, every time I make just an off-color joke, I go, thanks, Bob. Like, I know it's him.
Oh my God. He was definitely smiling down on you when you're doing your stand-up sets. I mean, one of my best friends is named Mike Young, and he's amazing.
I know Mike Young.
Yeah, Mike is a great stand-up comedian.
Did he just direct something?
Yeah, he's directed like 3 movies.
Yeah.
We've been friends. He was one of my first friends in LA, but he toured around with Bob. I mean, they were for years. He opened for Bob Saget, and they were like brothers. And
yes.
when this happened, it was so devastating for him, and we were all there for him. And Bob was one of the sweetest, kindest people, and really was on top of his game. And it was just like, you know, out of nowhere with no warning.
Yeah. And it was an accident, you know, it was a stupid thing that we all, you know, how many times have we been like, oh, ow, I hit my head, and you go to, and that's it. And that's it, you know? So, but I am so glad that last show was like, I mean, what more do you want? You know what I mean? Like, what more literally could you ask for?
Yeah. It's what he loved the most. Well,
he was somebody who was close with my mother-in-law, Ann Mira, who they shared this dirty sense of humor, irreverence. Like people, you know, this was my mother-in-law, and every other word out of her mouth was the F-bomb about somebody. It was so classic.
I get that. That's me. It's so.
It was, you know, we would have a babysitter when the kids were little, and you know, the babysitter would come in, and Anne would, and it was her way of disarming people, but like ingratiating herself as well. But she would go, "Who the are you?" Like, and it was like people were scared, but then you fell in love with her, and she and Bob would shared that sense of humor. So when she passed away, he was one of the first to reach out, and he spoke at we put together a really beautiful memorial for her at one of the Broadway theaters.
Oh, Bob spoke for when Anne.
Bob, you know, started off the show and gave her really a beautiful tribute. So it rocked our worlds too. And you know, I know Ben knew him really well, but I didn't know him well at all. But the few times that I had met him, he was just that person where you're like, oh, I feel like I've known this person my whole life.
Yeah, he was very genuine and warm and kind. And like I said, I think so much of how my childhood growing up in this business was really dictated by the adults on that set. And
is your stand-up comedy in like you seem like it's in the vein of Bob's kind of like, you know, pushing the envelope?
Probably just because I'm pretty inappropriate. I mean, I out-bobbed Bob once at the out-bobbed party.
Bob?
I out-bobbed Bob. I don't remember what it was. I think I have blocked it from my memory so as to never say it publicly. But I said something to Bob, Heath Manager, and I just immediately went in and said like just a really and he was like, wow.
I trained you well,
wow. And I was like,
young Jedi.
Wait. Would you? And he was like, that was you have Bob. I was like, oh my God. I was so proud of myself. It was the proudest moment ever as a comedian to out Bob Saget. You're like,
that's the pinnacle.
I am both the worst and the best all in one.
It's a great lesson though. You know, Bob, I felt like had to work to undo the American Funny Home Videos and Full House image. Right. So he'd come out and be like, you know, F word, right. You know, like the most disgusting.
Right. And I mean, I get it. I too am sort of, but that was the humor I grew up with. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I mean, they were very good about not saying it as we were kids, but like, as I got older, you know, kind of once you graduate from the kids table and you move into, you know, the adults and you start joking around, and like Bob and I would always just be the ones on the group text, just constantly still going,
just trying to make each other laugh.
And then finally we'd like move off to the side, and I was like, I don't think anyone finds our jokes funny anymore. And he's like, fuck them. You know? And that was what it was. And I miss him so much, but there's not a day that goes by. I mean, like I said, I was painting right up here, but there's not a day that I don't think of him somehow. And like when I go up to do comedy in particular, like I go, you know, Bob thinks you can do it.
Right.
Bob thinks you can do it. Bob thinks you're funny.
So he's still here. He's still guiding you. It's a great loss for everybody else. But so what the directing? You said you're directing a film.
Yeah, I'm going to be hopefully directing a rom-com, you know, TV movie this summer in Canada, hopefully, if the timing works out.
Awesome.
But yeah, I just did another Hallmark mystery movie in February.
The Hallmark
just shot that.
Like how great is I did a Hallmark Christmas movie years ago, and I was like, this is the jackpot. Like the greatest.
They're grueling when you do them because you're doing like it's like here, make a movie in 12 days.
I was going to say
like,
it's
okay,
a very, very the schedules are tight,
right? But that being said, I always tell them like you can do anything for 3 weeks. Yeah, you can.
Right.
And if you do it well, you can do one every year for the rest of your life.
Right, exactly, right, or more. And I love them, and so much of the same audience really enjoys those that does Full House and Fuller House and stuff. So it's been a really great transition, and I've met a lot of really wonderful people. And, again, we'll be having the opportunity to start directing some in that as well. And yeah, just, I have learned in this business, just try everything. Like, just someone gives you an opportunity to do something that sounds interesting. Sure. Why not? I'll try it.
Right. Or go away and go start another career and then come back to it. I mean you reinvent yourself. I mean, I love it. I love your whole story.
It's incredible. And it is infectious. Also, I'm sort of like, Jodie takes Hollywood, like bring it on. I want to get on that Jodie train.
Smashing tables. I have finally gotten to that place in my life. I'm 41 and I don't know, like, I think you kind of, particularly for women, but I think all of us, it's that midlife thing. You just kind of go, oh, wait, yeah, I don't give a shit what you think about me. What have I been doing this whole time? I get
right.
it,
that's the secret to life. That's
most freeing, right?
It has given me the most freedom and the most, I just am finally like, oh, hi, me.
Right.
Hi,
and you can do
you
can do your best work that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Not giving a fuck.
Yes.
We all have to go through our journeys, but I feel like right now I'm in a kind of a sweet spot where I'm like, let's just see what comes next. Everything's on fire. So why not?
That's so positive.
I always before we kept you so long too, but before we,
no, it's fine. I don't shut up. So.
Well, we don't either.
Right. Yeah.
What about the kids? Acting bugs, performing bugs? Is there a
my younger
spark?
one is a performer for sure. My older daughter, Zoe, is an athlete. She's a really talented soccer player. So that's kind of her thing. That's where she's at.
Awesome.
And always has been. She did a little guest appearance on Fuller House when she was young. It was like an extra in the thing, but I think she was like, this is really boring. And I just pick her. I was like, yeah.
No interest.
Sorry, it's not, the extra work is not always fun. But she is not as into it. My younger one is in a performing arts academy, and she wants to be on stage. She's the one that's kind of out there. She sings, she dances, she loves all that.
How do you feel about that?
I want my kids to be happy. Right. I truly am like, go to college, don't go to college, just find a purpose. Your purpose is going to change over your life like 5 or 6 times. So don't think whatever you're doing at 18 is what you're going to do forever. Right. Go travel, go. If you like performing, if you love, great. Here's all of these different avenues and ways to do it. There's no one right way. I really want my kids to understand that there is no one right way to get to the place of being successful, because I think so many kids and people think like, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that and I didn't. So who cares?
It's not a cookie cutter model. There is no cookie cutter model.
Not, and my girls are creative, interesting, unique people. And so I know they're going to be fine. They have skills in the world that they are going to need. And whatever that looks like, whether it's performing, whether it's art, whether it's, being a barista, and like, that's what you want to do. If you're happy and you find joy and you take that and do something good with it, that's all I want. I don't need you to be like billionaires. I really don't. In fact, I prefer if you weren't. I need you to be good humans, and the rest will fall into place.
Oh, that's so well said. What a great way to end this.
And they have creative spirits. And I think those of us with creative spirits are constantly like taking the world and transforming it and spitting it back out for us.
And knowing they have the support, their moms, their parents' support to explore the world, that sort of confidence, they'll be successful in whatever they do.
Exactly.
And they try and try again.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, I was going to say they learned it from the best. I mean, for talking to you today and hearing your attitude, your adventures, your journey has been, and not to sound too cheesy or corny, but really inspiring. And it's so impressive, and they're lucky.
Thanks.
You are lucky.
They would probably say otherwise, because I just had to take Snapchat away yesterday. But
oh no!
But other than that, I'm doing great. Yeah. Yeah. Now my kids think I suck.
All of our kids.
Which means I think I'm doing the right thing.
That's right.
Kids like you. My older daughter loves me, but like still has that moment where she's like, oh, I'm like, we got to keep that.
Yes.
Can't like me too much.
Yes. When you said that earlier, even about your Full House family, I thought when you said we still get into it, I was like, well, that's the sign of a healthy relationship. It's when nobody's getting into it that you have to worry. Right.
Right. Those families that keep it all bottled up.
Doing that. Yep. Oh God, no. I spent too many years bottling things up. And me and bottles don't go well together anymore.
Amen to that.
Me neither. Yeah, you made me laugh as when I worked with you when you were a child, and I remember your professionalism in that scene, and I was so intimidated, but I was like, wow, this kid just walks in here with these chops. And then working with you as an adult on Hollywood Darlings was so much fun. And it's just amazing to keep reconnecting with you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for it. I'm really glad I got to do the show. It was fun.
It's so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I hope to see you in person one day. Yeah.
Yes. I want to come see your stand up. I want to see.
Oh my gosh.
I post about it semi-obnoxiously on Instagram. Not too terrible, but I do have
Comedy
a couple
Store
family
LA
dinner shows coming up in May and June, and a few other things. Comedy Store LA on the Sunset, in the Belly Room. So I'll be posting about that. But, I
gotta make an LA trip. I gotta get out there. I gotta see you. Yes.
Yo, you're welcome do it anytime. Yeah.
Thank you, Jodie.
It could be weird. No, I'm just kidding. You're welcome, you guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
I mean,
is it wrong that I want to be her best friend?
She's
like
amazing.
Wow. Well, first of all, I had no idea you had worked with her twice.
Well, once was, I don't know how many, 30 years ago.
Yes.
But yeah, recently, maybe like 5 years ago, we worked together again. She's come through it, and she's succeeded in a million different ways, but like has this amazing perspective, right?
So incredible. It inspiring for women, but inspiring for anyone in show business. I loved that she said that growing up as a kid actor, you have that imposter syndrome.
Right.
I'm like, I started so young, and what was it? And she's really paid her dues and just deserves the best. I loved that. And I could have talked. I say this every week, but it really is true with all of our guests that we could just keep talking for like 3 hours.
I mean, she's super smart and has really amazing stories and amazing perspectives. And the fact that she ended up back on the Full House set on Warner Brothers at the same stage, like I was in my head, I was thinking, can you imagine you and I getting called back to the ranch?
The ranch.
Like
I cannot imagine all of us.
I mean, it would be such a trip, right? If we shot a whole season there.
Yes. But I do think, thinking about it in that way is, wouldn't we all come together and appreciate it so much more? Wouldn't we have that sort of life perspective? Like we're a little older, a little wiser. And I got chills when she talked about those stories of of just how they all came back together and being, there are no coincidences, I always say, but I really feel like there's something very magical about that show. And
right. It sounds like it was a joy for them all to come back to it. And she ended up directing some of them and just getting over the imposter syndrome. I'm an adult, I'm here, and I'm still good at this.
Yeah. Yeah. She was awesome. So,
well,
that'll be it for us for this week.
That was a great one. And next week's going to be.
We have a really fun guest for
amazing.
Next week. Yes. Very exciting.
I read that they booked this this guest. I was so excited, but we keep it as a surprise on this show.
Yes, we do. That's our new little thing. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank
David,
you for listening.
As always.
Yes, Christine, great to see you. Always
see you.
My favorite part of this whole thing.
Me too. We'll see you all back here. We'll hear you all back here.
All right. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, guys.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars.
And please follow us on Instagram at Hey Dude, the 90s Called. See you next time.